Got the intro music. Got my man, Coach Angel. Got the intro music. But you don't like my rapping skills, bro? What's going on, everybody? Project FITFO podcast. Man, like I always tell you, we got a good one today. We always got a good one. I got some great people that I know, and this is one of them. I'd like to introduce you to Angel De Jesus. Coach Angel, as like everybody likes to call him, owner of KO Empire, the premier boxing club, business, program, right? Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Coach Angel, welcome, my man.
Thank you. You know it's your favorite coach, Coach Angel.
There you go. Hey, we give you some applause. I tell you this, meeting Coach Angel has always been a fun story because he's Puerto Rican and I'm Puerto Rican. And you put two Puerto Ricans, and then my media guy here, Tony, he's Puerto Rican. So this is combustible.
We're bringing that flavor to the Dallas area, baby.
Ding, 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 right?
Put some adobo and sofrito and everything.
Right? So in Project FITFO, we obviously talk about how you figured it the F out. And I know your story. Your story is a really good one. That's why I invited you to this podcast. So if you can do me a favor, if you can address the audience, let them know your name, how old you are, where you're from, and give a little background of how you grew up.
I'm Coach Angel. I'm 40 years old, originally from the Bronx, New York City, and moved to Texas my early teens. What else? My bad.
No, you're good. You know, tell us a little bit about how you grew up. So, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother and a younger sister.
So you're your middle child.
I'm a middle child.
Oh,
yeah.
You're one of those.
What does that mean?
That was a joke.
I'm the most responsible.
So, middle child out of three siblings.
Yeah.
And how'd you grow up? You grew up in the Bronx? Did you grow up?
Single parent household, mother struggling, working 2 full-time jobs. Me and my brother had to grow up quick, When I was younger, it was cool. My mom was home. My father left us when I was young, so walking those streets, and we had a pretty tight knit family there for a little bit. But as you get older, you gotta figure it the F out.
Yeah.
And so me and my brother grew up pretty quick. He as I got older, we went to my early teens. Like I said, we went and moving to Texas. My mother was just trying to get out of the big city and the fast pace. At that time, my brother, he was getting ready to get out of high school, so he went to the Navy. So he just recently retired from the Navy, and I took a different route. I started boxing when I was 12, so I was doing that in and out of the gym and doing some stuff in the streets and stuff like that, trying to figure out what I was going to do. My mother just wanted me out of there, so brought us to Texas, trying to make a whole new life out here. And
how was that? So you moved from the Bronx, New York City. It's another reason why me and you get along so well. So you were how old when you moved? Exact age?
14.
14,
yeah.
Right? My parents moved us out of the Bronx when I was 8 to Mesa, Arizona. So we moved to the West, just like you. And I know what kind of experience it was for me. It's really what has really helped to be who I am today. It's a lot of things. What would you say was, part of that transition that you can remember that was challenging?
Coming from the East Coast to Texas is hard, especially at that time. Dallas was. I didn't even move to Dallas when I came to Texas. We went to a small town called Greenville in East Texas, which had literally no sidewalks, no public transportation. It's just a country bumpkin town, So and less diversity. When you come from a place with super diverse and cultures really integrated, and you're used to being in your own culture, especially being Puerto Rican. Going to a place where they don't know what that is, that's tough. And trying to figure out, especially in your early teens, when you're coming up 10, 12, your preteens into your teenage years, trying to figure out who you are and your identity, and trying to figure out that in a place where you're trying to redefine who you are, it's really tough. Trying to find new friends and a new culture in an age where you're trying to define who you are is tough.
Yeah, so. I feel you. And I think that's one of the big key things that I would say was an issue for me, and I can relate, is that, when you go from being in a very diverse type of atmosphere, environment, to a very one demographic environment, it's a hard thing to relate to.
Yeah.
The other piece is like being able to, I would say, make friends, them understand your culture, right? So was that something that you dealt with?
Oh yeah, all the time. Being Puerto Rican, if anybody's knows about being Puerto Rican, that's part of who you are. It defines a lot of us of who we are as we grow up. We try to stay as close to our culture and knowing where we're from. I believe so. So we're so proud of our flag. But coming from a place that wasn't, especially back in the '90s, that's going to a place that doesn't have that diversity and doesn't understand. You're always having to explain yourself. But I will say it made me look deeper and really know the history of where I came from. It forced me to really know where I'm from, because being in New York, you're around Puerto Ricans and they tell you the history, and you kind of, it's just part of what you do. It's just every day.
Yeah.
Coming to a place where you have to define who you are and let people know who you are, that makes you different. What especially when you're coming from a place that's like driven. They say if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere. When you go to a place where you got to really try to force yourself to make it, and you're trying to define who you are, those type of situations, and being in a new place where it's not as culturally diverse as a kid, and then trying to explain to people who you are, where you're from, really allows you to kind of dig deep and figure out where you come from and where you want to go. And I think that really, for me, was a big part, because I learned more about my culture and really studied, like, I'm not just telling people who, I'm Puerto Rican or where I'm from. It's like, what about me is what makes me me, and learning about where my ancestors come from and what drives me to be the person and be so proud of who I am really forced me to kind of look into that.
Now, I would say that was all through elementary. Oh, not so much elementary, because when you got here, you were 14. So you're looking at high school.
Yeah. Middle school, high school ages, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So it's like trying to let people know, okay, well, Angel is this guy when you meet him. What makes Angel tick? What is it that makes me me? And figure, having to always, I'm not just, like, especially in Texas, I'm not just Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican. And like, what is that? And having to explain, well, this is what we are, this is where we're from.
Isn't that amazing? I dealt with the same thing. It's so hilarious. Like, what are you? I'm Puerto Rican. Oh, you black? No, I'm Puerto Rican. No, that's black. It's like,
Right.
Well, then you're Mexican. I'm like, no, I'm Puerto Rican. And you got to like literally show them where Puerto Rico is. Where's that?
Yeah.
That's the next question, right?
Oh yeah. You speak Spanish. You Mexican. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah. So now you get through high school, right? You've been boxing, obviously.
Yeah, so not through high school, because I was still kind of new. There wasn't really a whole lot going on until literally like after I got out of high school. I was 19, and a friend that I had in high school found a gym in a small town called Silver Springs. The boxing coach there was his name was C.J. Duffy. He was ranked number 7th in the world in the early 90s. And he opened his own gym out there, which was probably like 20 minutes outside of where I was staying. And it just so happened that a guy that I knew from high school, he was like, "Hey, you into boxing, man? I know this boxing gym. Come check us out." When I got in there, man, I was like, all right, this is where I'm going to be. And so I stood there for quite a while, for a couple of years, till I was about to turn professional. And then some things happened with my coach, so I had to find a new coach. But
yeah,
that's what
so you got into boxing. You were an amateur fighter, and then you became a professional fighter. How long did that take?
Let's see, went back on 18, so about 5 years.
About 5 years?
Yeah, 5. About 20. I was about to turn 22 when I turned professional.
Okay. Yeah. And what were you doing in that for work?
Man, odd and end jobs. Trying to stay busy. At that time, when I turned 21, my first daughter was born, so I was still fighting amateurs. You don't get paid for amateurs. What I tell my guys in the gym is amateurs is just building technique and experience, and figuring out who you are. It's like the way I tell people, it's like your high school and college years, your early college years before you get to the pros. Figuring out what style you have, how to do the proper technique, basic drills, and things like that. So because I didn't get paid, I was like this is what I was going to do. You know, boxing is what I was going to live off of. But because I wasn't doing it then, you know, you find odd and end jobs, man. And I can't tell you how many I've worked and done anything.
Name a couple. Name some things
Man,
that you've done.
I was a manager at McDonald's, delivering Dallas morning newspapers. I mean, I'd work 2 or 3 odd jobs that get me by just so I could get to the gym and be able to provide for my family. You know, I've been a roofer, I've been a cabinet designer, I've done mechanical work. Anything that I could do with my hands, I'm really good with. You know, so fast food restaurants. I mean, here's and I attribute that grind to the boxing gym because. There are things in the gym that you have to do on a day-to-day basis that a lot of people don't like to do. They want to do, I mean, just in basic, you know, like in the gym, like I don't want to have to jump rope all day. You know, I don't want to it's just boring. I don't have to run 6 miles a day. It's just monotonous, you know. But doing those things in the gym has kind of got when I was outside the gym, got me that mindset. Like I'm willing to do anything. And there's no job too small or too meticulous to get to where I need to go. And those little jobs made me really appreciate when I really started making it. You know, I wasn't fortunate enough to get like a world title shot or anything like that. You know, I kind of just had odd and ends fights, and then I started, you know, MMA a little bit too. But as a coach, it's definitely developed me better as a coach because what I tell guys in the gym is everybody wants to be a world champ, but nobody wants to put the work in to get there. And you got to start from the bottom. And there's never a job that's just too small. You know, when I was fighting, again, I'd work at McDonald's. There was a time where when I first opened my gym, man, I had a limo company and I was working at Whataburger overnight, and nobody knew that. You know, I'm working for pennies because I could not in my mind fathom failure. And those little things to me is what counts.
Sounds to me like the entrepreneur life.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like that. So now you got through some of your professional fights. You said, because I remember you telling me this, you owned a limo company.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because I thought that was pretty cool that, you know, not only were you fighting, but then you had your limo company. Now, this is before you owned the gym or after?
No, before.
Okay,
actually, that company actually allowed me to facilitate me getting my gym.
Okay.
So around that time, that was probably 2009, 2010. So I don't know if you know this, but to get a house, you have to have like good income and work history and stuff like that. Like they just don't let you just buy a house.
You don't say.
So, you know, the real world kicks in. And so so I actually was, at that time, I was still fighting and training, but I actually was managing a Valvoline instant oil change and manager at a Hilton hotel. Was the front office manager there.
Yeah, both jobs?
Yeah, at the same time.
Wow.
For about 3.5 years, man, I worked 80 hours a week, and I was still training for fights. Yeah, I was still training and still fighting.
And you had a family.
And I had a family. By that time, I already had 2 daughters, and my wife at the time was a stay-at-home mom, and she was going to college. So, you know, just, again, that grind, those things that people don't normally want to do is what really the boxing gym really forced me to, like, hey, if you want to be a world champ, this is how you got to get there. And that mindset I took into the real world. You know, if I got to work 2 jobs, I'll do it. If I got to work 3 jobs, I'll do it, because that's what it's going to take for me to be successful. And so, yeah, so I was doing that, and I'm not going to say gifted an opportunity, but an opportunity presented itself. And it's just one of those things. It's like, do I want to pass it up? And working at the hotel, there was a guy that owned a limo company. And he was like, man, I'm moving to Florida. I want to get rid of it. You know, and you seem like responsible enough that you may be able to take over it. So he gave me an offer that I was able to kind of buy it out from under him. And I didn't know anything about it. But I was like, what do I got to lose? And when it comes to the fight game, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to really anything in life, what I try to give a lot of the guys, any young person in my life, any advice is the number one thing that you got to have to succeed is guts. I mean, sometimes you just got to go for it, because I'm not one of those type of people that's like willing to say I wish I could have when I had the opportunity to. Not everybody's given the opportunities, but when it comes, be ready. And so
Amen.
he gave me an opportunity, and I said, hey, I'm going to run with it. Let's go. And so I had it for about 3 years before I went full into my gym. But, yeah, I mean, he gave me big contracts. I mean, when I took it over, man, I was driving around Ross Perot, was a former presidential candidate, executives for Dell and Pepsi, Stryker. Was a company that I worked with doing their transportation. So I meet a lot of really crazy people, high-end people. So it was cool. It was a great experience. And for me, I take it all in stride. I'm very fortunate, especially from where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get those opportunities. We don't get to come out from those bad neighborhoods or get opportunities where you get to meet people or interact with people that are very successful and be able to soak up that knowledge. Being able to talk to them and really kind of see, okay, what makes them successful?
Did you ever look at them and say to yourself, what makes them successful? But then the second piece is, why am I not there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually talking to him put a lot of myself in perspective, because I always thought, well, and this happens to a lot of people. Like, I don't have the benefit like they did, or whatever the case may be. But when I talk to them and interact with them, I'm like, I can do this. There's nothing different between me and them. It's just me trying to figure out how I get there.
Mm-hmm.
That drive, that hunger, like those things that I learned in the gym is really kind of like, hey, we can do this. Like, I can be just like that.
Yeah. So you now got the limo company. A few years goes by, and you raise up enough capital.
Yeah.
To go ahead and open up your own gym.
Yeah.
So talk about that transition.
Which was crazy too. So, because I mean, like, when people see you in a certain type of light, they don't see you in another. They don't see you. I'm driving around and wearing a suit. At one minute, my guys used to tell me I was Clark Kent Superman. They see me in a nice suit while I'm driving executives, then taking it all off and getting punched in the face for a living, and they're just like, that's crazy. But with that capital, I was able to kind of like really have a vision of where I wanted to take my facility after one of my pro fights back in 2012. I had told my coach, I said, man, I'm really interested in trying to open my own place, because I was kind of bouncing from gym to gym with my coach. And I was like, I need a home. And I was like, I think I can do this with my own place, And I think the confidence came from having the limo company, because it's like, well, if I apply anything that I know as far as drive and how to run a business, I can do it with any business. And boxing is my love. It's my passion. It's what I've done. So I took that mindset into opening a gym and creating something from nothing. I mean, a small little warehouse. Within the first year, I was just, the original purpose was just for me.
Yeah.
Really. I was like, I want to open it up so I can have somewhere to train and be able to not have to worry about anything. And then kids started coming in, and I started mentoring kids. And I was like, oh, there's another aspect to something else that I didn't know that was there. I didn't think about it.
How'd that make you feel to be that mentor coach to children?
Yeah, it's a blessing, really. Like I have kids, and like one of the things about me is like I have 4 daughters. I mean, we've talked about that. Like I have 4 daughters, and everybody asked me, would you ever want a son? And I said, I was blessed with what I do to have unlimited amount of sons. There are a ton of young men that were just like me, that came from nothing, that need guidance, and I was blessed with that ability to have the opportunity to better talk to those guys and things that I didn't have. Situations will put your life in perspective. I never thought I needed to do that, or that's where I would be going. I kind of had that in my life in the gym, but never thought that that's where I would be one day, till it fell in my lap.
As a father figure,
right?
Yeah, because that's something you was not used to. So you were like, how the hell am I going to be a father figure if I didn't have one in my life? But then you realized you were actually good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started mentoring a lot of these young men into being better, right? That's amazing. And then you went from there. So now you got your gym.
Yeah.
Talk about the success of your gym. Because I think like that's a pretty much where like it starts to get really good, is that you had this successful gym there for a few years, right? 9 years total?
Yeah, 9 years. Yeah, it blew up, man. And and I will attribute a lot of it from where I came from and the small things that people don't think about, the little jobs that I had to do, those things that make you and develop you as a young man or as a young person as you get older. Utilizing that, not just saying, "Oh, that happened to me," but utilizing that to look forward. And the reason I say that is because every time somebody came into my gym, they were like, the atmosphere feels like a family atmosphere, and you feel like you're a person who values and cares about what you do. And I was very passionate about it. And it wasn't just coaching people on how to box or training them. It's like you have a passion like I have a passion, and I want to show you how to use that, and not just in the gym, but in everyday life. Like how it affected me in my life in general is how I coach. Like I'm just not showing you how to throw punches. Like I'm showing you the mindset of what it takes to be a world champ and how you can use that in life. And I think that's what allowed me to grow. When I talk to people, how passionate about I am about what I do, I think really drew them in. And I mean, I started with like 8 kids the first couple of months. I mean, I had like 8 kids in my gym, man. To like by the time I was in my, and it's funny because my family was always like, you know, if you make it your first year, you'll be all right. If you make it you know, it was always pushing the goalpost back. Oh, if you make it, you'll be somebody, you know, because there's always going to be somebody that's putting their limitations on you. So those outside things really drove me.
It's hilarious because one of the common themes here that we've have used is the crab bucket effect. So it's like where you're trying to get out of that bucket, but the other crabs are trying to bring you back in. Because, like you said, they're projecting themselves onto you, and so they try to pull you back. We don't want you to get too far, so we want to make sure that you keep you close to us, so we don't feel like shit because you've made it and we haven't, right?
Yeah, and there's the other side of that. When you get out that bucket, they're like, "Hey, you forgot about us." Why am I not there with you, man? Because I had that come to me too.
Oh yeah. You think you somebody new now? You forgot about us? Oh yeah, right. I'm with you.
You owe me? Nah, man. That's not how that works.
So you built this successful gym with a great culture.
Yeah.
And so now it's 7, 8 years strong. You learned a lot about business. I'm sure you learned a lot about marketing. Were you getting, different demographics in there, or was it just kids? Or
no, yeah, I was getting all different type of demographics. Marketing was one of them, which I still is not really a big strong point because it's kind of it's really broad. I need to hone it in a little bit. But yeah, I was able to kind of hit all type of cultures, lifestyles, people, just everybody. And again, I attribute that to being not just being a basic boxing gym, but having the what can I say, like the passion in what I do and the structure. That's one thing that a lot's lost on is having really good structure. Because like anybody, anything in life, if you don't have it structured, it can fall apart really quick. It's like a house of cards.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you get to 7, 8, 9 years. What happens then?
As far as the gym?
Yeah.
Oh, we're blowing and going, man. I had quite a few professional fighters that I was coaching that time. Really good amateurs, guys that were going to the Olympic qualifiers. I really had a solid facility. I had grown it to where I had an administrative assistant that was helping me in the gym. I was kind of really not. My job at that time was not just coaching my main fighters, but carrying the culture and how can I say, like keeping up the enthusiasm of the gym. Making sure that everybody was taken care of. And so it was kind of a lighter load rather than just being a coach and coaching all the classes all the time. I was able more to be a director in that aspect.
Makes sense.
And learning how to make the gym expand and bring in more people. We started a nonprofit to help mentorship and stuff like that. So we were really growing in that aspect and trying to reach the community more, figuring out how we can expand the brand.
And then what happened?
Life happens, man.
This is where you had to definitely figure it the F out, right? So then what happened?
your personal life happens, man. I went through a divorce and everything got taken down in an instant. You know,
Yeah.
all that everything.
You know how many people are out there that are listening right now that are probably like, oh, I know this feeling.
Yeah. I had one main objective, and it was to be successful
Mhm.
at everything that I did, and I worked very passionately hard to make sure that I was successful at that, whether it be in my home life, my work life, or just anything that I try to do, I try to be best at. And when you get to a point where you lose track of one or the other, they fall apart. And unfortunately, it all happened together. I couldn't be successful in my gym and not be successful at home, and then think that I was going to be okay. One was going to suffer, which was eventually going to cause both of them to suffer, and that's what happened. So I went.
Interesting.
I went when I was going through my divorce. It all collapsed. I didn't mentally as a person. We're all human, so going through that, I lost track of. I didn't know because I wasn't successful at my home life. It really tore me down because I was just like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I what I'm striving for going to work on my business end if I can't do it on the other end? Because failure for me was not an option.
I want to touch on that. And the reason why is because I think this is a reason why I have this podcast in the first place. And I respect you and everything you've done. And there's people that need to hear it. When you say you failed at your home life, so therefore you felt like you were a failure all the way around. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it mentally broke you down. What year was this?
That was back, let's see, 20, 20, no, when did my daughter graduate? That was about 4 years ago from now. Oh, yeah, 2020. Back in 2020.
So then the pandemic hit. Is this before or after the pandemic?
It was like right in the midst of the pandemic, man. Yeah.
I kind of figured as much. So now you have the pressure of the pandemic, the pressure of losing your home life, right? With your, divorce. And then what happened to the business?
Oh, it suffered, man. Like here's the thing. So, like when the pandemic happened, like I had to shut my gym down, and so it was a weird feeling because having your own business is not like working for somebody. When you work for somebody, you kind of have and maybe this is just for me because I've always had worked multiple jobs or had my own thing. Especially at that time, I had it for a while. So having a normal home life was not something I was used to. Going home and being with my kids for 6-7 hours a day and stuff like that. So when the pandemic happened, I had to close the gym down, but I also needed to make money, so I got me a little part-time job. But having being around my family and being home was great, and my kids loved it. My wife at that time loved it. It's like, oh man, this is weird to be able to just go to work for a little bit and come home and spend time and really get to enjoy each other's time, which we didn't do very often because I was so busy making my business work. That's why my home life was suffering. When we came out of the pandemic and I was able to work again, the flip switched so hard because I was like, I have to get my business back, that everything else went to the wayside. So it's like somebody giving you a piece of candy and it's saying halfway it tastes good. All right, now it's gone. Now you don't get it anymore. And essentially that's what happened. It's like we got to a place where it's like, oh, there's another side to life that we can have that we never had before. The pandemic sucked in the fact financially because it didn't help my business at all. Like I got no help, so trying to figure that out. But personally, it helped my family because we got to actually be with each other, and learn each other. And it was something I didn't get an opportunity to do too often.
Yeah.
But then having to come out of it really shook everything up because now I got to get back to what I was doing. And it just didn't feel good. I lost it all, and so when you shake things up that quickly, it really hurt. It hurt my kids, you know, it hurt my wife at the time. So
I think and by the way, thank you for sharing all of this because it's important for people to hear because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are in the same position you're in. You know, I have experienced the same thing where I put too much time and effort into my business and failed to put any time and effort into my family life. And it does come back to bite you in the rear end if you don't do that. So you got to find a harmony, I like to call it, not balance, because balance is 50-50 and there ain't no such thing. So it's a harmony. So sometimes you got to give a little more here. Sometimes you got to get a little more here. Just depends on the day.
I like to use ebb and flow.
There you go. Yeah. I like that too.
You got to ebb and flow, man.
Mm-hmm. So with that, now, no gym. You're divorced.
Yeah.
We're rolling into 21 now, 2021.
Man, my whole identity was shot, bro.
Okay.
You know, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with myself. You know, everything that I had worked for had fell apart. You know, going through my divorce, I lost my house. Wasn't seeing my kids very often. I had to sell my business. Like I had to give up everything and start literally from nothing. You know,
Man.
And I like.
And how old were you at this time? I would say if that's 2021 time frame, that's about 3 years ago. So you're like 37, 36?
Yeah, about 36, 35, 36. Yeah.
And you're losing everything that you work hard for and you have to start all over. What a FITFO moment, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was tough.
So then you go into what? What'd you do next?
Man, you know, at that time I was just trying to survive. So, and I go back to what I normally do. Like, all right, I got to make a living. You know, right now I can't back into the gym. I can't get into the gym and do that. I mean, I lost all that. So I lost kind of my identity for a little bit. So I kind of stepped away. Man, and when I tell you, like, I tell guys all the time, there's not a job too small, man. I was delivering pizzas for Domino's and I was working for Lowe's full time. Luckily with that, because of my work ethic, you know, I was able to move up in Lowe's pretty quick, become a manager and do some other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was just like, I'll do anything. Deliver pizzas. I mean, whatever it took to feel like I had that some type of success.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like when I was younger, I was like, the one thing that I feared the most was failure. Like I have to be successful in order to make it or my life's not worth anything. And so at that time when I was at my lowest, I mean, you know, you go through some mental things. You know, you contemplate suicide and things like that. And, you know, there was points at that point, I mean, hell, I was living in my truck, like I had lost it all. Man, and when I tell people like I've come from the bottom twice, you know, when I was younger, before when I was in my later teens, you know, I was living on the streets and was able to build myself back up when I met my wife at that time and build myself from nothing, you know, living in rundown homes to really build something. You know, when I bought my house back in 2010, like it was such a great success story for me because it's like I've never even lived in a home, let alone think about owning one, and having that all taken away and having to do it again. I think is what really kept me from even contemplating suicide. Like, where would my life go? You know, I could end it here, but if I've been successful once, I know I can do it again. So you have those two kind of railroad tracks of where you want to go.
Say that again. You contemplated suicide at some point, but you thought to yourself, what? And say it to the camera. If you can be successful once.
If you can be successful once, you can do it twice. And you have two options in life. You can completely give up on it, or you can go for it. It's one or the other.
And you made a bet on your capabilities.
Absolutely.
Based off the experience you already had.
Right.
Phenomenal. So now you get done with well, not done, but you're at Lowe's, I should say. You're at Lowe's. You're moving up the chain. Then what?
So, you know, trying to figure out what's my next move. You know, obviously, we got on time?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I worry about the time. You worry about talking. Go ahead.
So, you know, trying to get back to a normal life.
Uh-huh.
You know, my cousin let me stay with him for a couple months till I was able to get back on my feet, get my own place, feel some type of normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
Was able to do that, get my own place, and I was kind of out there. I was still here's what I would say. You know, when you're starting to feel good about yourself again, you know, I was doing a little partying too much, but in the back of my head, I was like, there's still something more to my life. Even though it got taken, I know there's something more to me. And at that time, I think probably like 2 years it happened. What I would tell people is don't ever expect anything to happen fast. Like the timeline wasn't like 2 months. You know what I mean? It was literally like 2 years where I was like, okay, now I know there's going to be an opportunity that comes where I can really get back to where I was. And what happened was, now you're thinking 2 years, 2 years from now, and I was like, all right, boxing's my life. Let me see how I can get this back in. You know, I had lost that. And, you know, mentally, what I was going through, I was like, I felt like it was taken from me more than I lost it. But, I mean, obviously, I played a huge part in that. You know what I mean? But trying to navigate through life and trying to get back to where I felt like I should have been at that moment in my life, like I should have been way further along, and it's starting all over again.
Yeah.
Just reaching out to friends that were in that industry, you know, the fight industry, talking to them, trying to really rebuild myself mentally to kind of get back into the gym. How can I coach again? Maybe fight again? You know, mentoring again. You know, telling guys, when I was in the gym and mentoring kids full time, that was the first part of my life. Now I'm in chapter 2, and I've got so much more to say. You know, because now I've come from the bottom as an adult and not a kid. My mindset's different. The drive has to be different. And not only that, but I have to teach that to my own personal kids. Like, hey, I'm not going to let this beat me. You know, we all going to do that. We going to be here. And so trying to figure out how to get back to that. And my gym that I had sold, that I had to sell, I was really good friends with the guy that took it from me. So I was able to kind of step back in there and kind of give some guidance, you know, and kind of tell them where I think they should do better. And then I was like, all right, I need to get back on my own. I couldn't go back there because it was my own place and too many memories. You know what I mean? And sometimes in life, in order to move on to the next chapter, you have to put the period on that last one. And that's what I had to do. When I went back to my own place and was kind of talking it out with the owner there, the guy that took it from me, you know, he wanted me to come and help. And I said, in order for me to move on, I have to put the period on this. And so it's yours, brother. Like, I can't, you know. But all respect. You know, he took it over and he's doing whatever he's doing. So, but reaching out to some old people and that I had communications with that knew who I was, essentially from what they told me, they were waiting on me to get on my feet. They knew I was going to get here just when, you know, and how fast I was going to get there. So, and that leads me into self-made.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So you're in self-made Dallas. You're hanging out with Professor Heido. Shout out to Professor Heido, 144 Academy.
Yes, sir.
Right? And you were working with him. Didn't know if you were a client or whatever you was, but at the time. But I was introduced to you at that point. And we kind of just met in passing.
Yeah.
While you were training. And, of course, you know, that Puerto Rican thing. You know,
yeah.
Are you Puerto Rican? I'm Puerto Rican. Oh, we Puerto Rican, right?
Brothers for life.
Brothers for life, right? And then, you know, I would go to Lowe's sometimes and I'd see you in Lowe's.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's a guy, that's a cool cat. That cat's cool, right? And we would chop it up in Lowe's. We chopped it up in Lowe's one time for a minute. We were sitting there for a minute talking.
You got the wrong salt.
I did. I had to get salt for my water softener, and I got salt for a pool instead of salt for the for the water softener, right? And I remember you had alluded to the fact that you had owned your own gym at one time, and you know me, I'm in sales mode 24/7, and I was like, you used to own your own gym, you used to be a trainer, and you were like, yeah, you know, I did it for years. I said, you should come train in my gym. Nah, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? And nah, you know, I'm kind of doing this thing over here, you know. Plus the rent's too high.
Yeah.
You remember telling me that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, man, you can make a lot of money. You know, I can help you. Why don't you come check me out? Come sit down and have a talk with me. And you did. And I'll let you take it from there. Well, what'd you think first? I mean, because this is a FITFO moment at the time. What'd you think? As you're standing there in your Timberlands.
Yeah. I had to fit in, man. I was catching criminals at that time. Thieves.
Go ahead.
And I still didn't fit in. They're like, you're not from here.
So go ahead. What were you thinking at that time?
When we were talking Lowe's,
Yeah.
you got me hyped, man. It brought back that fire that I had when I owned place, when I had my own gym, and like I said, there are going to be opportunities in life that you got to be ready for. And, not everybody sees the signs when they come. And I'm always one of those guys that tries to keep my eyes and ears open. And it was a sign and an opportunity that was like, maybe I can do this. And you were talking to me, I was like, well, let me sit down and talk to him and see what I can do. I knew it was always going to be there, but how I was going to do it, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you were very hesitant.
yeah.
And you were like,
Yeah.
And I can see rightfully so now knowing, I mean, I know a lot of the story, but now knowing even more details, you didn't want to go into something that you would potentially fail at.
Yeah.
That was probably nerve-wracking. Plus, you wasn't the owner, kind of.
Right.
You're the owner, but you're not the owner.
Right,
Right.
right.
You're the boss of your own company, but you're not the owner of the gym.
Right.
So how does this work? Right? This is unique. But then you said, you know what? The hell with it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you make it sound like it was fast. Like I said, nothing happens fast. It takes time.
I'm trying to skip to the good part.
Try to skip to the good part, man. It took quite a few conversations with Mark here to try to convince me. I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it did.
But like any other opportunity I've been blessed with in my life, man. Like I've had people that I've come across that can see the potential and give me the opportunity.
Yep.
And feel like that I'm worthy of that opportunity. I will say, staying humble to those opportunities, you have to be. Like, obviously, everybody in their lives feel like they deserve something. They want to strive for. You want to get it, but also staying humble in the opportunity when it's given to you. You know what I mean?
One of the things that I would say too is that when we had that conversation, I'm going to fast forward here for time's sake, but you signed, you came into the gym, you started running your business out of the gym, and I told you, I was like, hey, you're working at Lowe's and you're doing this here. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to pick a side. One or the other, because it's gonna be very, very, very difficult for you to succeed on this one. On the entrepreneur side, still having that 9-to-5 job, and you were like, security. It was really something that was big on you. You're like, and I can see why. I mean, you're talking like the things that happened to you previously, with your house being taken and things like that. You're like, I ain't trying to lose this again, or lose again, right?
Yeah, failure's hard to deal with, especially it's hard to fail when you never succeed, and it's hard to succeed when you don't go for it. And so, you did present it to me, and I had thought about it, but I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do it now, it's got to be the time. And we had a couple conversations about it, and you were like, "Hey, man, you got to pick a side." I was running myself thin. I mean, you seen me in there taking naps on the ring and naps in my truck, trying to figure this.
Me waking you up and telling you can't sleep on the ring.
Right? Yeah. Hey, man, what's going on? You look like a homeless bum. I'm working, I promise.
That's exactly what you said. I was like, you can't be sleeping in here, man. Go sleep in your truck. And then, but there was that one conversation. And I always love to talk about that conversation, because that conversation changed everything for you, changed everything for me. And the reason why I say for me is because, it allowed me to have a perspective of you, of see how great you are. And it validated my already opinion of you and why I was like, this dude needs to come over here. And that conversation was, you came to me and you said, hey, man, I need to talk to you. And I said, all right. And you came in and you said, look, dude, I don't think I can last, so I think this is going to be my last month. I don't know how you tell the story, but I remember my story, which is, the hell you ain't. You ain't going nowhere. And you looked at me like, yo, man, who the hell are you talking to?
Oh, yeah.
So am I telling the story correct?
Yeah. I was really confused. I was like, huh?
And I said, you ain't going nowhere. I said, you staying right here. And we're going to work this thing out. You're going to sit down. And we're going to work this thing out. And we're going to see how we can make this thing work. and we're going to do it together because I know that you're capable of doing it. But you got a lot of shit going on right now that's driving you to not be able to move forward. And you were like, you had the smile, that typical Angel smile, like, all right, motherfucker. All right, okay. And you sat down and we went through. And we caught some holes that were in the business at the time. Not your fault, it's just some things that, we were like, we got to tidy up on this.
Oh, yeah.
And once we did, this is the part. This is where I got the utmost respect for you.
Yeah, I mean, once we sat down and talked, you kind of gave me perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, you told me to come in, hey, let's look at your finances. Let's sit down and really talk about what your business is like. And I said, all right, let's go. Let's see what this is like. And you gave me perspective of what you saw, what you thought, what I could cut some loose ends on, and really how to tighten this thing up, what your opinion on how I could market better. I mean, just really kind of gave me a good overview of some things that I was missing.
Yeah.
And those things were, no lie, I mean, those things were missing even when I had my gym and it was going, because I didn't have that other perspective. I didn't have somebody help me, mentoring me on that end. So, looking at your finances in a tighter view, looking on how to market it just a little bit better. How are you going to be, again, more structured in the way you run your programming and, things like that. Like, I was pretty good at it, but, I mean, you really gave me something. I was like, okay, I think, there's something that I need. I can do this.
But then you went and ran with it.
I ran with it.
And that's the part.
Yeah.
I love that part. That's my favorite part. Out of anything, out of all things, it's about not the advice I give you or anybody gives you at that matter. It's the fact that you ran with it.
Yeah.
That's what makes you special because you ran with it. And then,
man, look, I mean, the minute I said, you know what, Mark, that I think that following week hey, man, I put my 2-week notice in. We gonna make this happen.
you did.
I said, I'm gonna put my 2-week notice
And
in.
I was like, yeah, let's go.
You were pumped.
I was pumped. I was like, hell yeah.
And at that time, I was like, I don't know. In the back of my head, I was like, this shit better work. But I was like, hey, I gotta go.
You were high-fiving me like, yeah, okay, boy.
Yeah. Teeth grinding like,
And then,
but no lie, that very next month, I implemented everything you said, and it was the best month I ever had. As a matter of fact, it was better than any months I've had with my full-time job and the business combined. So I was making more money at that time, getting more clients in, and it was just, it worked.
and in the next month,
Got better.
and the next month,
Got better.
and the next month.
Just gets better.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's what, and now, I mean, you're moving and grooving.
Yeah.
And KO Empire is alive and well.
Look, and you know how I can tell? So one of my fighters told me today, hey, somebody reached out to me from like New Hampshire or Virginia or some shit like that. And he goes, they watch your TikToks. They know who you are in Dallas. And they know you work at Self-Made because there's a Self-Made close to them. And they thought you're the coach over there. But they're like looking at you now. And I'm like, that is crazy. He's like, you nationwide, brother. And don't even know it yet.
Because one of the things that you implemented that's so dope is education. So for all you boxers out there, coaches, don't try to mimic this professional over here. But the dude's pumping out educational tutorials and things on fighting, on boxing, on everything.
Everything.
And it's drawn such great attention to you.
Yeah.
But that was something you did. I didn't tell you to do that. I mean, I gave you a little, advice, but at the end of the day, I mean, you ran with this and you started making it, and now your business is thriving.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to ever cut out anybody. You gave me the idea, and I had some ideas. And even now, like my man Tony, every time we work in videos, he say, "Hey man, you should do this." Man, that's fucking. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I love it. And that's what I love about Self-Made, and I love about the culture that you bring to the gym, because it's not just, man, how can I run my business for me? It's like there's so many great people that have so many great ideas that can help you build. And I think that's something that you did great. I mean, you motivated me to really push myself, but you create that culture in the gym in general. Like you're not doing it for you. I didn't have to pay you for that advice. You gave it to me.
Yep.
And allowed me to succeed as long as I follow, listen to what you say. And because you did it for me, everybody around you is like that. you know, and it's great to be around guys like that. Like I said, Tony, man, has been such a great help when it comes to the videos. If you can get him to me on time. You know what I'm saying? No, but he's great. Look.
I threw him out there. Look at him.
You're not wrong.
He's like, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all.
Yo, but there'll be days I'll be stuck, and he's like, hey, man, do this. And I love it. I love it. You know, and it's helped me be successful, and it's vice versa. Hopefully I've been able to bring some people to him that help him be successful, you know. And I just love the culture in it, and I think that's what makes this so special.
Brother, it is amazing listening to your story. You always amaze me every time we get into real deep conversations as well. So this was, you know, top of the line. I love it. I love the fact that I was able to get you in here and share your story. I think a lot of people are going to get something from it. The fact that you have been hit, you know, brought down twice and being able to get back up to where you're back to being successful again speaks numbers on you. And I utmost respect to you, my man.
Thank you.
So one gem that you can give the audience that they can take with them from this podcast. One gem. Please look at the camera and tell them something that can get them to figure the F out the way you did.
Like one-liner?
Go for it.
I don't know if I have a one-liner.
Come on, man.
The one thing I tell everybody is stay hungry. Find your dream, stay hungry. Just like you go, you know, you work to eat, you know, do that with your life, your mindset. You need to be hungry. Actually, that was my motto for 2023 was stay hungry. Anything that I feel like I could devour mentally, emotionally, physically, I was going to do it. And I think that's what drives more success. Content is the downfall of anything. Once you get content with what you do, it'll plateau and then fall. So stay hungry.
Stay hungry. My man. Where can they find you?
They can find me on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, KO Empire, Boxing, or Coach Angel at any of those social media.
Man, it's such an
Self-Made in Dallas. Come see your boy.
There you go. Self-Made Trade Facility in Dallas. Shout out. So thank you again, my brother. I'll shake your hand. I appreciate you, my man. And remember to like, share, subscribe. Tell everybody about Project FITFO.
I'm a bigger problem when I click with Skrillex. Murder on my mind. It's time to pray to God. My revolver's not religious. The revolution.